Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Javier with the real Javier Novoa on a Friday night, and we are cranking out the videos, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of material is just coming through me today, and I felt inspired to share these videos. Of course, if you find value in our material, please subscribe and like so that we can get the algorithm to sort of take off with our videos so that we can get this information out to as many people as possible. And also you will have the benefits of getting all of the alerts for my videos immediately when they come out. So I want to start talking about my favorite inspiration, my favorite books and quotes and so on and so forth, because we are living in, as everyone knows, turbulent times, and we're going to be doing more shows on the JN show on my podcast that I'm still in the developmental stages of starting, which will cover current events. But it's always important to revert to your base, to revert to inspiration, and to tap into the spiritual so that you know how to face whatever life throws at you, and you have a bulwark of certainty in these uncertain times. As Marcus Aurelius said in the Meditations, that many men seek to go on retreats, and going on a retreat is great. Going on a vacation is excellent. In fact, moving to safe places is going to be a core part of our program, to choose safe places and places that give you the most physical comfort and protection to make your homestead in. However, these alone are not enough, and they're on the physical, and they will perish anyway, and they will vary in their effectiveness according to your beliefs. But what is the true bulwark is retreating within, and as Marcus Aurelius said, do not seek to retreat on the outer, even though I am wont to do these things, he said, but retreat to the inner, because you can do that anytime. You don't need any resources. Nothing on the outer needs to change, because your inner core is that cave to which you can retreat, and then from there you can come out and face the circumstances in the most effective way. So, on that vein, there are 3 books. A lot of students have asked me, what books do you recommend? And there are tons of different books, because I love to read. I've read thousands of books. I have thousands of books on my bookshelf, and even more books in PDF forms in my computer files. Books that I've read and books that I'm still reading through. And each different topic has different books that I recommend. But there are 3 core books that I'd recommend for anybody with any education level who can read. And if you can't read, I'd recommend that you listen to the audiobook versions of those, because they're not about education per se. What they're about is how to live. Because even if one is not educated, one can still live a virtuous and good life. Of course, that would include seeking education, presumably. But it is not all about knowledge and education. Almost everything in life, or we can even say everything in life, is about finding out who you are and finding out what your relationship is with the universe, and figuring out that the universe is benevolent. As Einstein said, we have to make a core choice, and that choice is whether we live in a malevolent or benevolent universe, and this basically colors the rest of your life. So the 3 books to me are equal, meaning that I would not recommend one above the other. And there's a very good reason why I recommend them. The first one is the one that we're going to go into tonight. And this is an extremely good book. It's called How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And it's by Dale Carnegie. And I first read this book, or I read parts of it when I was about 18 years old. And it helped me through my 20s. It helped me through the turbulent period of my 20s, where I was still finding myself, even before I found this material, which was in my late 20s. Before I found out about law of assumption, law of attraction, self-help, even spirituality and mysticism, I did learn these principles, and they helped me to become everything that I am today. And we're going to go through core parts of this book because I think it's very, very important that we internalize the contents of this book as well as some commentaries on it. The second book I'd recommend, and again, these are all equivalent in stature to me, is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And that basically teaches you how to do what the first chapter in this book recommends, and that is living in the now, living in the present, and living in day-tight compartments. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle was a paradigm shift for me. I also discovered it in my late 20s, and it basically just revolutionized my life. It revolutionized the way I lived and the way I related to the world and the universe. Even though I had studied religion before that, but I had not gone into mysticism. And I could say that my intellectual introduction to mysticism was through The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. And we will make probably many videos on that book. And then the third book I would recommend, if you were just going to read 3 books for the rest of your life on spirituality and even personal development, is The Handbook of Epictetus. And Epictetus was the great Roman Stoic philosopher who was a former slave and was liberated and learned philosophy and then taught it. And he goes into the core tenets in that book, the essence of Stoic philosophy. And you could spend the rest of your life studying those tenets. And among those tenets are, we accept what is, we learn to focus only on that which we can control, and we pursue virtue as the highest good. And by virtue, what the Stoics mean is being the best version of yourself. So, that being said, let us get into this book. You see, this was written by Dale Carnegie, who was a great teacher and who taught on human relations and who taught on speaking and so many other topics to adults who were trying to pursue success. And he wrote the book, How to Make Friends and Influence People, which is a great book. I'd also recommend it. But why do I recommend this book even over that? Because this book teaches you how to live. It teaches you how to relate to life and to life situations in ways that will give you minimum stress and will therefore allow you to have a whole life and will allow you to be energetically free so that then you can flow your energy to everything else you need to create success in your life. See, ladies and gentlemen, life is not about the physical aspects of it. Life is not about making money. Life is not about trying to gain a position in the world. Sure, all those things are byproducts. But life is about energy. Because everything that you want, as Abraham Hicks emphatically stated again and again, is because you think you will feel better in the having of it. And what makes us feel good or bad? It is vibration. It is good energy. And so there are either things in your life, which are thoughts, by the way, because everything exists within our consciousness, as Joel Goldsmith taught us. There are thoughts which drain energy, and there are thoughts which convey energy. And the more energy you have, the more you're able to achieve in life on the physical plane, because you're moving. If energy is not flowing, it's like a hose that's been cut off. Therefore, the principles in this book will teach you how to get that energy moving. And I just want to go through a few passages here. The first chapter is by far the most important, because he talks about live in day-tight compartments. He quotes Sir William Osler, who was a physician. William Osler said that he read a quote by Thomas Carlyle, the great historian, that helped him lead a life free from worry. And worry is that aspect, or it is a placeholder for all of those negative aspects which drain our energy. He said our main business is not to see what lies dimly at a distance, but to do what lies clearly at hand. And I believe, as the Stoics said, as Marcus Aurelius said, we should write down quotes and we should have a notebook full of quotes that we can return to like medicine. When life starts to become difficult, we can have these quotes like medicine to help us guide our course and to help us get back into that vibrational vicinity. You can do it by being completely present, or you can also do it by suggesting quotes to yourself, which will help you get back on the right course. And the quicker you do this, the quicker everything that you want flows into your life. I'm reading between the lines here. Write down this quote, and I want you to live by it, because it is the principle for everything that we want, for what we talk about in this channel, rapid lifestyle transformation. This is the principle. Our main business is not to see what lies dimly at a distance, but to do what lies clearly at hand. Do the task of this moment. Whatever task is before you is the divine pathway to everything that you want. And sometimes the task is just to be and just to observe. We do not always have to be taking physical action, as we talked about in our video about action. You cannot avoid acting, because even choosing not to act is an action. Sometimes the only action is to simply be present, to observe what is with you, to allow whatever work that you need to do to flow through you, and let that be sufficient. Let that be enough. Though, as in the Islamic tradition we say, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, that Allah is enough for me, is enough for us, and indeed what a great something to trust in. So it's a great entity to trust in. It is great to know that God and the present moment is sufficient for us. And then from that, everything flows, because everything that's going to come to you is going to come to you in the present moment. And this doctor just basically said in a speech, he said, what is the secret to success? He said, I owe my success to living in day-tight compartments. What did he mean by that? He said he had crossed the Atlantic on a great ocean liner where the captain standing on the bridge could press a button, and presto, there was a clanging of machinery, and various parts of the ship were immediately shut off, like on the movie of the Titanic, where they can shut off certain parts so that the water did not flood into the other parts. Now, each of you, Dr. Osler said, is a much more marvelous organization than that liner, and bound on a longer voyage. Indeed, the voyage is eternal. What I urge you is that you so learn to control the machinery as to live with day-tight compartments as the most certain way to ensure safety of the voyage. Get on the bridge and see that at least the great bulkheads are in working order. Touch a button and hear, at every level of your life, the iron doors shutting out the past and dead yesterdays. Touch another and shut off, with a metal curtain, the future, the unborn tomorrows. Then you are safe for today. Shut off the past, let the dead past bury its dead. As Jesus said, let the dead bury the dead. And what this means is, let those old stale thoughts, those old fears, even those old desires, which by now have transmuted into new desires, just let them go and let them bury their own dead. Don't you try to bury the dead. Shut out the yesterdays, which have lighted fools the way to dusty death. The load of tomorrow added to that yesterday, carried today, makes the strongest falter. And I remember a great psychologist was saying that, how heavy is this a glass of water? Or we could say this cup of coffee. Well, if I hold it for 15 seconds, it's not very heavy. But if I hold it for 10 minutes, I probably, after 30 minutes, the strongest bodybuilder in the world couldn't hold it. So what's the solution? Put it down. And then you can pick it up a few seconds later, and you can hold it indefinitely. That's a great moral of that. So this is basically the first chapter, talks about take no thought for the morrow, live in day-tight compartments, and as Eckhart Tolle says, try to live completely on the razor edge of this moment. And when we do that, miracles start happening in our lives. Then there are many chapters in here where he teaches how to solve problems, and they're basically a variation on you calm your mind, you get into that alpha state that we talk about, and he has many techniques in the back of the book for how to get into what we call alpha. But he says to basically get in a state where you can think clearly and then ask yourself, what's the problem? What can I do? And how am I going to do it, or how soon am I going to do it? And you basically analyze the situation and you write down what are the different outcomes, and then you can see those. As we'll go into journaling, this is a very powerful journaling tool, and then the answer basically just jumps out at you. And it also talks about research. When you do research, as if you're doing it for someone else, and you very cool-headedly ask what's the problem, what's the solution, you ask good questions, then the solution will just come to you, and it'll come to you almost out of the blue. It's just by the very act of sitting down and contemplating calmly that'll help you do this. So he talks about cool contemplation. Put a stop-loss order on your worries. Stop worrying. Like if someone's late to dinner, you tell them you're going to wait 10 minutes and that's it, then leave and don't worry about it. It has very good quotes and steps, and you need to go into this book and you need to meditate on it and read it. I read it every year. What it says here is to read it through once, then read a chapter a month, and then read it every single year so that you can refresh these principles in yourself. Marcus Aurelius said, we have to keep repeating the principles to ourselves, not only the principles, but the reasoning behind the principles, so that we can remember them and so that we will be motivated to take action on them. Because at the end of the day, the principles are very simple. What's hard is remembering to take action on them. So, probably the greatest chapter in here, one of the greatest, is 8 words that can transform your life. And he goes into our thoughts make us what we are. And he goes strongly into that current of New Thought, Christian Science, things that Joel Goldsmith has drawn from, which is really incredible. Which he is saying, Marcus Aurelius said, 8 words that can determine your destiny. Our life is what our thoughts make of it. If we think happy thoughts, we will be happy. If we think miserable thoughts, we will be miserable. Very simple. Everyone knows it. The Christian scientists and New Thought authors really went into it and implemented it in an amazing way. He goes into many books about this. He talks about the founder of Christian Science who went from being homeless to being a very wealthy woman. He went into this is a seminal passage. It was about a man who got very depressed, so he decided to take a trip to Florida and from the north. His father sent him with a letter and told him to only open the letter when he got there. So when he was very depressed, he opened the letter. And his note said, "Son, you are 1,500 miles from home, and you don't feel any different, do you? I knew you wouldn't, because you took with you the one thing that is the cause of all your trouble, that is yourself. There's nothing wrong with either your body or your mind. It is not the situations that you have met that have thrown you." And by the way, when psychologists say you're depressed, and by the way, I'm not a psychologist, I'm not making any medical diagnosis or suggestions here. Just a friendly chat. When they say you're depressed, I don't believe this. I don't buy it. I don't buy these diagnoses. I don't think there's anything wrong with a depressed person's mind or equipment. Definitely nothing wrong with their soul. I think it is the pattern of thoughts that they've been trapped in for years and years, and it's a very tough pattern to break. But with meditation and with getting into presence and journaling and even talking to somebody, they can get through it. And they can get through it usually quicker than they thought possible. But to tell someone that one is depressed, that's a label that will simply keep you in that vibrational loop. Again, this is just an opinion, not medical advice at all. So, but he said, there's nothing wrong with your body or your mind. It's not the situations you have met that have thrown you. It's what you think of these situations. As a man thinketh in his heart, the Bible says, so is he. So it is about what you think of these situations. And I'm just going through some parts of this book very quickly, just to encourage you to read it. Get this book, read it, underline it. I've written all over my copy. This copy is years old and it just has notes. That's what I do in my books, ladies and gentlemen. I write notes in them. And I go back to them again and again, especially seminal books like this. Never worry about ingratitude. It talks about many parents are saying, my children are not grateful to me. Many relatives say, well, my relative is just ungrateful. I gave this person a bunch of money. They're not grateful. Why would you expect gratitude? First of all, if you're doing it for gratitude, this is the wrong intention. This is not from a state of abundance. This is from a state of lack. You're trying to purchase love, and you cannot do that. Also, he said, Socrates and Christ were killed, and they gave the most to humanity. Why would you expect that someone be grateful to you? And when you can drop that expectation, not only of gratitude, but of any dependency upon the outside to make you happy or to do anything, then you will be free. And this book goes into that. If you contemplate that, it is indeed an incredible realization for your life. Don't expect anything from anybody. As he said, gratitude is a fruit of great cultivation. You do not find it among gross people, so do not expect it. Your gratitude, would you take $1 million for what you have? If someone said, I will give you $1 million for each eye, would you give him your eye? No. If they said, I will cut off your arm and give you $1 million, would you? Maybe somebody will. But this goes back to what we were saying last night about optimizing for happiness. We're not to optimize for an amount of money. We're not to chase a number of money. What we're to do is to try to figure out what makes us happy and forget about the money. Figure out a way that we can attain that with the least sacrifice and the least heartache to get whatever would give us, as the Epicurean said, the most pleasure. And oftentimes it's not going to take as much time as you think. It's not going to cost as much as you think. You just have to plan it intelligently in a vibrationally consistent manner. So, it goes into serving people, how to cure depression in 14 days. Get concerned about other people. And in this course, we teach a lot about it. It's happened to me many times. Co-workers, business partners, bosses whom have not gotten along with me. Each time I would imagine them in the best circumstances possible. As Jesus said, pray for your enemies. I imagine the best for my enemies, and within weeks, I swear to God, I swear to you, ladies and gentlemen, within weeks, each of these persons were transferred out of my ambit. Either they found a better place to be, they got into another business, or they were transferred to a different location. And I can tell you these specific testimonies perhaps in another video. Love your enemies and pray for them, which means imagine the best for them. They will get out of your experience. And serve people. When you're going to go into a business, figure out how it is that you can serve people. Because serving people and giving of yourself truly from your heart and from your joy, that attracts abundance to you. Doing it out of a sense of obligation will not. That will negate your abundance and that will deprive you of happiness. But finding something that you can do to serve from a state of joy and happiness, this is what is going to lead you on not only on the path to wealth, it's immediate wealth and immediate gratification. He talks about this, Dale Carnegie, in the book. The Golden Rule. He goes get into Scripture. And in this course, we teach perennialism. We teach going into the essence of all religions to that mystical essence. And you need to get in touch with your own religion, your own tradition, and find gems in that will comfort you in your most difficult times. In this book, it goes into biblical verses that will simply comfort you in any time. And the chapter is incredible. It talks about how my mother and father conquered worry. Henry Ford said this. The great industrialist and the great inventor of the car, Henry Ford, When I asked him if he ever worried, he replied, no, I believe God is managing affairs and believe that everything will work out for the best in the end. So what is there to worry about? When you believe in a higher power, and in this course we know that it is within, and we can go within any time, what is there to worry about, ladies and gentlemen? Why would we worry when we have that great bulwark? So towards the end of the book, he goes into techniques. He goes into meditation. He talks about simply resting your eyes, ladies and gentlemen. Sitting up straight, you can rest your eyes. Sitting up completely straight, as he says, and as I have found, gives you the greatest comfort. Close your eyes, just be totally in the present. And you can raise this is from the Silva method, you can raise your eyelids to the horizon, above the horizon, and you'll feel just completely relaxed. And when you attain that feeling, you can just ride that feeling for the rest of the day. It gets you into what we call flow. And I think it goes into how Eleanor Roosevelt did this and many great figures in the past. Also, he goes in how you can lay down on the floor, just lay flat on your back. This is a great yoga position called the corpse position and is the most relaxing position. And by relaxing your body, you relax your mind. So, ladies and gentlemen, read this book. It is a wealth of techniques and simple concepts that we should all know, but that we forget. Read it and implement it. And we are going into a lot more videos this week about how to rapidly transform your lifestyle. We're doing coaching calls where I'm going to guide you through all this material on an individual basis with a personalized program for your radical, rapid lifestyle transformation. It's going to be so fast, it's going to blow your mind, ladies and gentlemen. So email me at Javier_Novoa if that interests you. Please, if you find our material of value, subscribe to our channel, like the video so we can get the information out. Until very soon, this is Javier with the real Javier Novoa with much love and gratitude and appreciation. I'll see you very soon.